Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Promote Iceland's Inga Palsdottir and European Travel Commission's Jennifer Iduh in discussion with Skift's Patrick White.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Before we start the session today, I just want to remind you all that we are taking questions for later on in this panel discussion. So if you go to Slido, either through the app or through the website, you can post your questions and you can also rate them as well. So over the past few years, Europe has seen its fair share of troubles. We've had terrorism, we've had political instability, we've had financial instability. And what's pretty incredible is that last year there was an 8% rise in tourism arrivals for what is a pretty mature market. You can read a bit more about that in our magazine, but this session I really want to talk about the macro view and then the micro view as well. So we've got Jennifer and Inga. And I want to start off with you, Jennifer. If you could tell me what you think this increase is down to. Why has Europe done so well in 2017?
Well, 2017 was what I would call an extraordinary year. So last year, we saw the number of tourist arrivals increase impressively compared to, well, since the pre-crisis period in 2009. And since then, we've seen how growth has been actually fluctuating quite a lot, and on an average more or less of 3%. So this is actually quite good. We saw an increase of 8%, and we hosted 671 million tourist arrivals in Europe. And we hold 50% of the share of worldwide tourism, so this is actually good news. And if you ask about the reasons why, well, it wouldn't make sense to talk about growth in arrivals without mentioning the economic expansion, for example. We also saw that many destinations that were not performing well due to some terror attacks are actually improving. So if we go back in time, in 2006 we grew by 2%. So this was because of the terror-related events that we saw in some destinations, and this was actually particular destinations, but in reality, the other European countries were performing quite well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because we hear a lot about Spain doing extraordinarily well for such a mature market again. But is the growth unevenly spread? Are certain countries doing really, really well and others are kind of languishing? You know, the UK, for example, maybe hasn't done as well. Is that true?
The UK just saw a very tiny slowdown because of the pound got devaluated, but it was just some specific destinations that brought down the overall regional growth, but this was able to offset the performance. So while some were doing very low, others were doing well. So in 2017, these destinations recovered. They're slowly recovering, and together with the other ones that are performing quite well, including Iceland and many other European destinations, we were able to offset this. And other destinations that are actually doing quite well are in southern Mediterranean Europe. We see good examples in island destinations like Malta, Cyprus, or for example, Montenegro, Serbia, Slovenia. So they're actually performing quite well, and they have proved to been able to mitigate seasonality. They saw more than 10% increase in 2017, and this is following the momentum that they built already in 2016 and at the beginning of 2017. So they perform well not only in the summer peak season. So this is a quite important fact. These destinations they perform quite well, and they depend a lot on their summer peak seasons, but they were able to record extraordinary results outside this season. So it's quite.
This has become a trend in travel in certain destinations. I know Greece have done it. I think Iceland have been pushing it as well. You expand the season to kind of manage tourism flows. If I bring you in, Inga, now, is that something Iceland's been looking at, managing the number across the year and expanding the season?
It's been our main focus, actually. If we look back to 2010, which many people look at what happened, something in Iceland with a bit of a volcanic eruption, if you remember, and put us on the map. But if you look at the numbers since then, we've had 20 to 30% increase in the last few years, every year, but most of it is off-season. And it was decided on a strategy level in 2011 to put the focus on the off-season. But since then, we have actually been developing as well to think about our 7 regions as well. So we also want to look at the sort of the off-season and also spread people and travelers around the country and introduce new regions and new attractions in that sense.
How do you force people to travel outside of their peak times? Because, you know, if you're a family, you've got school holidays, you've got to travel within that 6 weeks in the summer. How do you intend kind of incentivize people to do that, to go in March, April, or in the winter time or whatever? How do you get people to do that?
Well, I just call them up and ask them to come. No, I mean, if you put your focus on the marketing, for example, we were always a bit shy of showing the winter season in Iceland. And you were shy about showing the different weather conditions in Iceland as well. And we've been showing that through the years now. And also we've been focusing a lot on the cultural side of Iceland and the people that are living there, and not only on the natural nature. What you actually do is also, when I started in 2010, you had 3 airlines flying to Iceland all year round. Today there are 11 airlines flying all year round. So, and we have 49 destinations throughout the year, 100 in the summer season. So that's also important to develop like that. But also what you do is to work with the tour operators, you work with the Icelandic industry on introducing the winter season to have the products available. Also with the foreign tour operators. So it's a link to so many factors around this. It's not just one marketing campaign that is going to save everything.
Yeah, airlines and airports is something that's been really important to Iceland, I think. You know, you've got the stop-off point between Europe and the US. How has that helped? Because you've added the airlines. Has it just brought in loads more people, and has that been a hard thing to manage?
I mean, Iceland is quite small. And we would not be able on around 340,000 to run all those airlines or the destinations in that sense. It has completely changed the scenario that we have. You have around, probably this year, around 8 million people going through the airport, not going into Iceland, but going through the airport, which is quite a big number.
Is that a good or a bad thing? Because
I mean,
these people aren't going into, they're not going spending in shops, they're not spending in restaurants, they're just passing through. Is that something do you want to capture more of these people?
I mean, we have a better manageable number with 2.2 million people coming to visit us last year. But for us to have the destinations, to have this kind of a volume, you're creating jobs in Iceland because you have the service in the airport. But most importantly is that with all the destinations that you have, is for Icelanders, business-wise, this has been important. For us to be able to travel to the destinations, for export industry as well. So it's not only been about the tourism industry in that sense. So to be in the middle is an advantage, I think, for us.
And Jennifer, has low-cost airline growth in general across Europe fueled tourism in certain destinations more than others? Is that something you've seen?
What we've seen is that there's a sudden interest in low-cost airlines. It's something that actually been going on for many years already. So there's this boom, and low-cost airlines in Europe continue to boost travel within the region. The benefit that we've seen is that thanks to the liberalization of the airline industry in Europe, there are more destinations that people can reach within the region. It's also been a catalyst for the development of tourism in lesser-known destinations, in small cities, and it has definitely been an impulsor of city tourism and short breaks as well.
So Inga, I want to come to you and talk about Iceland's phenomenal tourism growth. We've seen, it's huge numbers of people going there. Tourism is something the country's really concentrated on. I think I'm right in saying you get 40,000 visitors a day, is that correct?
On average through the year, if you look at it like that, it's around 50,000 people at this point. In the highest peak, it's around 90,000, and then it goes down to 30,000 in the off-season.
And there's only 338,000 people living in Iceland.
Yeah, but
so that's a huge number compared to the number of people there.
But put it in a perspective that the country is 103,000 square kilometers. That's quite a big size, and you get the same numbers into even the parliament in Germany, I think, a year. So it's not like we're drowning.
But you've got a problem.
It's a challenge
because Reykjavik is very, very popular for obvious reasons. how do you go about managing tourism? We talked a bit about the seasonality, but what about within the actual destinations themselves, the cities, and not controlling tourism, but dealing with it and making sure it's evenly spread?
Yeah, I mean, I think every destination in the world is thinking about that, like you say, and we've been doing several things. One of the things that the government did in 2015 was to put up a tourism task force, because as you probably all know, it's not based in one ministry, the tourism. It's associated to the transportation, it's the health system, and many other. So there are four ministries involved in this. It's the industry itself, and also the municipalities. And this has proven, in our opinion, to be a really good step in this direction. We've also, in the last few years, been working on what's called Destination Management Program with the regions and the Reykjavik city as well, where we're actually trying to focus on where people are traveling, why are they traveling there, what is the identity and so on, and what's the attraction in that area. So you actually are better prepared for that kind of a development. Also, what we have been doing in the marketing side is that we've been focusing a lot on responsible travel behavior. So we've actually in our marketing been doing humorous videos on how to travel in a responsible way around Iceland, how to drive in Iceland, how to dress in Iceland, how to go even to the hot tub or make a safe selfie and other things like that.
Do you find people don't understand how to do that? Have
No,
you had problems?
No, there are things that are different with Iceland, because you have icy roads and you have weather conditions that can actually just change in 5 minutes. And that's something that people don't realize before they come to Iceland. And for us, I think, and for many, we've been talking a lot about being considerate, and to be considerate to your society that you're traveling to the Icelanders, to the nature, and just to be a considerate traveler in general. And last summer we did what we call the Icelandic pledge, where we asked tourists, and we're still asking them to do that, to pledge like a scout that you're going to be responsible when you're traveling in Iceland, because Iceland is a bit different from that in that perspective. They are an island with a delicate nature. It's small communities. I mean, Reykjavik is relatively small. In general, it's 180,000 that live in Reykjavik area, the whole area. So it's important to be considerate in that sense. But how to manage or how to distribute, I mean, I think we're all trying to find the right way of trying to balance this and find the harmony in this relationship.
And that kind of brings us to a topic that was mentioned in the opening presentation, one of our key themes over the last couple of years, over-tourism.
Yeah.
And Jennifer, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, what you've seen in Europe, certain destinations, how they've managed it, some doing better at it than others, do you think?
I mean, it depends, because we can see how tourist arrivals are growing. We can see how the world population is also growing. So this is what has actually brought to our attention that over-tourism has been a problem in several destinations. And we can see, we need to look at this at a city level, not at the destination level. So we see examples like Venice, Barcelona. We saw last year how the iconic Azor Eye in Malta was down as well, or the fishing town in Spain, in Benidorm, is practically non-existent. So I suppose we need to find a way how local community and travelers can coexist in the same place, but in harmony. So I suppose the tourism managers, decision makers, we tend to see only the economic benefits and ignore the potential negative impact that tourism can have in a destination. So we just try to avoid seeing crowded areas, crowded monuments or historical heritage sites, or water and air pollution. So these are the things that we need to try to address, and we need, most importantly, to involve the local community. We need to make them feel that they are heard. We need to involve them in tourism decisions as well. We need to listen to what their needs are, what their concerns are, and we need to also explain them what the benefits of tourism may bring. So it could be economic benefits, revenues, creation of jobs. So if these two areas are addressed properly, we can try to, little by little, find a way to address this main topic.
I think there's always been a disconnect between the benefits of tourism and that filtering down to the local level. There's just, people in these destinations don't see the benefits. So I guess that's part of the challenge, isn't it, for city tourist boards? And also one of the things I've noticed that when I was talking to countrywide tourist boards, they weren't necessarily as receptive to the idea of over-tourism, and they were kind of talking and thinking about maybe volumes, whereas the city tourist boards themselves were more aware of it, and they're starting to this was a couple of years ago, starting to think about it seriously. So Amsterdam, Barcelona. Do you think they are taking it seriously enough?
They are definitely taking it seriously. And another important fact that they should also, that we've seen that they're doing in many different cities, is dispersing travelers in different areas. I think Iceland is doing this as well, with the airlines trying to take people to different places. Mm-hmm. So it's also a matter of not concentrating travelers in the most landmarks in the destination. And this also comes along with the trend that we're seeing in travelers. They don't want to go anymore to iconic places in a destination, just take a picture, post it on social media, and that's it. They want to explore the unexplored. They want to go to different places. They want to live like a local. They want to eat like a local. They want to immerse themselves in the local culture. So I think we should actually take advantage of this.
Mm-hmm. And just moving on to Iceland specifically, we've written about the challenges of Icelandic tourism and managing it. Do you have an over-tourism problem, would you say, or not?
I would not say so, even though Iceland is repeatedly mentioned, but that's one of the reasons why Skift wrote an article. One of the first articles on over-tourism in Iceland was part of that, or I think it was actually about Iceland.
Yes, it was a very good article.
But Rafat said that actually in the beginning, over-tourism is about, of course, the challenge, but it's also about finding the solutions, because I think everyone are traveling today, and it's just going to increase and increase and increase. So for us, I mean, if you look at the numbers, in this sense, in Iceland, you have 95% of the tourists satisfied with their trip. 90% say they're going to come back. Icelanders, 90% say that they're positive towards tourism and the industry itself. 70%, however, say that they are worried about the impact on the nature. If they would not say that, I would be really worried, to be totally honest, as well. And there are many other numbers that you can have a look at in this sense, and also the size of the country, the numbers and all of that. But when are you in over-tourism and when are you not? Because today tourism is a whole year industry in Iceland. We are finally seeing a industry that is the most important revenue generating industry for Iceland in that sense. It's larger than the fishing industry and the aluminium export. Which is
do you think Icelanders know that? Do they know? Are they aware how important it is, or
Yeah, they know that, but like Jennifer said, we're all struggling about pointing out the economic importance of it. But on the other side, tourism is something that affects us all. It's personal. It's something that you go down to the city center and you will meet a traveler. But I think if you look at the numbers in Iceland and the research that has been done on the Icelanders themselves and the impact, they're all in general very positive towards it. But they just wanted the industry to be organized, and I think that's something that we're all doing. But over tourism, I would certainly not say that, because most of the growth and when you hear the numbers, you might be going like, whoa, that's a lot of people. But when you look at the numbers and you see where the growth has been, it's been in the regions, it's been in the off season. You're using the infrastructure much better. You're using the hotels, the activities. You're being able to build up better activities. Then no, I can't say that we are in an over-tourism situation.
But as a destination,
even though everyone wants us to be there.
But as a destination that's had this massive growth in tourism and become really, really popular, like loads of people want to go there. All my friends have been, like it's very popular. Have you got any advice for destinations that may be who may become that kind of new buzzy destination?
I think for myself, the importance of the government and the industry working together has been so much important, and to keep a focus, to make that strategic decision that we made to put the focus on the off-season and the responsible travel behavior now and all of that, I think that's something that every destination should have a look at. But it's not easy. I mean, Iceland is quite small and we have fewer companies and all of that than the rest of the destinations. But this conversation, regular conversation throughout the year, like we do, we have monthly meetings together and discuss the development. I think that's one of the key things that has been for Iceland. But of course, there's just never one point that you can say this is the reason why it's been successful. There are many other aspects to it.
But we were talking backstage about a story that was in the Telegraph, I think this morning or yesterday, about tourism numbers and how Iceland maybe wasn't recording the correct numbers. What do you say? Is this true? Have you been miscounting the number of people who've been coming to Iceland? Is tourism not as big there as we were led to believe?
I mean, all of us are dealing with numbers in that sense, all of the destinations. Iceland is an island, so you can actually, and there's actually people in the airport that are calculating, and they're asking where you're coming from, so they are calculating how many people come to Iceland, and travel through the airport as well, and so on. I think you will always have people that are traveling to the country as to work there, or are there just for the day and things like that, so you will always have some miscalculation. The tourist board did research, and they said about 5% were traveling to and forth from Iceland as workers. That's probably going to be the same in the other countries, and they're probably not calculating it either. So I think in the end it's going to even.
And Jennifer, is data collection tough? Is it difficult to get the correct numbers and to have a realistic view of what is actually happening in the market? How do you guys collect yours?
We collect our data that's provided by our member countries in ETC. So it's not an easy task to make sure that everybody that's collecting data has the same numbers. I think the fact that harmonizing the data is one of the sort of difficult things that we're dealing with. But I think the most realistic way to collect data is to ask for it directly from the member organizations. We ask for it from Iceland, from Spain, or from the destination directly.
Okay, I think we've got time for some questions. So the first one, how much of over-tourism is due to quantity and how much is due to the quality of tourism, types of tourist engagement, cultural awareness? So yeah, that debate over quality and quantity, is that something you try and push in Iceland?
What do you mean by is due to quantity? The numbers of tourists?
Well, I think some destinations want the volume, some are more focused on getting the quality.
Oh no, definitely quality in our perspective, because what we have been focusing on is to how evenly is distributed through the country. As I mentioned, the off-season and that part of it. But of course, the cultural awareness is important, and we have a pretty good mix of people. Country-wise, we have people coming from the North America, from the UK, from Asia, from Europe in general. So I think that's part of it, of course. But you know, we're all thinking about how much people are spending as well. That's been very much important. How much the type of tourist is spending, how long they're staying in the country, if they're coming back, and so on.
And then we have, as less mature European destinations emerge, what examples have you seen of attempts to mitigate too rapid growth? Yeah, are any countries doing well in kind of managing, any kind of new emerging countries doing well in managing tourism?
I mean, the more mature ones are the ones that are actually having to face this over-tourism problem, and the less mature ones, they're growing at the moment, so they just want to attract more and more tourists. And some of the good examples we've seen is thanks also to the increase of low-cost carriers, so they and increased air connectivity, so we can see how you can have flights to many different cities in one destination, so you're not concentrating people in one place. So thanks to more connectivity in the country, we can see how some of them are trying to displace or to spread tourists across the destination and not focusing all of them in one single place.
Mm-hmm. And if you mention regarding Iceland in this sense, we are expecting slower growth this year, 10 to 12%.
Really? I was going to ask that question actually about 2018. Can you give us a sneak preview of what, are we going to have another year of 8% growth, do you think?
We are going to have another extraordinary year, but at a more moderate pace of growth. So we do foresee growth in tourist arrivals in 2018, of course helped by the encouraging economic conditions in the Eurozone and also in some of our key source markets, the US, China, and definitely Russia. We're seeing now a revival of the Russian outbound travel. This comes along with the recovery of the economy in Russia, and the ruble is also recovering. So this is going to just continue boosting travelers to other destinations, particularly neighboring countries to Russia. But overall, the picture looks very positive.
That's a good note to end, and I'm getting the red flashing light, so we're going to call it a day there. Thank you very much, Jennifer and Inga, for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.